Hi everyone, it's Eileen Burns here from the Spiritual Marketing Club. Now, today's session I wanted to talk about what are the three things that you should focus on where you're finding your business is maybe in a financial crisis, or maybe you're worried about things maybe to do with, for example, at the moment we are seeing a serious increase in inflation in many countries, where we may be going into what we call a financial crisis. So, how do you navigate difficult times as a spiritual business owner? So, one of the first things that I think is always important is remember that you are a spiritual business owner. And if you truly are a spiritual business owner and a soul aligned business owner, you are always asking for guidance, okay? And often that's about getting out of our head and out of our fear. But it does not mean that we go into denial when we are being presented with certain things that are showing up, that are demonstrating that certain things are happening, okay? It's like you go on any journey, we can start to see that the weather's changing, that things are going to maybe be a wee bit rough for a little while. And the key here is preparation. But the reality is, if you get into the habit of daily asking for guidance and really building up your soul and spiritual connection, your intuition, building up that guidance and building up, and what I mean is to be open to guidance and asking for clarity. It makes such a bigger impact in your life. And I know a lot of people in the spiritual community ask for guides and things like that, but I always, now more than ever, and I've always kind of advocated, but I really have to stress this highly. With so much going on energetically, and many ways we're in a spiritual, what we would call a war, because I can't say certain things or I get censored. We're in a situation where the world is there's a battle going on, right? And we have to be coming from that place of strength and courage. We don't come from that if we get hooked into all the possibilities and all the fears. But we cannot sit into denial if we are being presented with certain challenges. So it's about using wisdom, spiritual wisdom and discernment. And you can only use spiritual wisdom and discernment about situations when you're out of fear and you're out in anxiety. And that's why I would say, make sure you're meditating every day, make sure you're keeping your connection clear, make sure you're keeping your energy, not just your connection, your energy clear. Because there's so many people in the spiritual community and all over the world that have been hijacked energetically for a variety of reasons. So it's so important that we let go of that fear and really say, right, okay, what do I need to do? And sometimes it's that surrender and letting go to be guided to what that next step is, right? When you are, there's a fine line between holding a high intention and a high vision for a situation, and between in a state of denial where you you want to keep the blinkers on and you don't want to see certain things that are happening. It's just like certain challenges in our life. If a relationship's not working, if there's something else in our life that's not working, or we're not doing something, if by just imagining the intention of positivity, but not actually fixing the issue you have, what you're doing is you're just trying to cover up and you're suppressing lots of things. When you ask for guidance and you look at your business as just anything else that has shadow aspects and things that have to be addressed, and also you can recognize that it's influenced by the collective and the universe, right? We require integration. you start to see much clearly how sometimes it's about just simple adaptation, and it's been able to adapt to the current situation. And adaptability can also be growth, being able to move forward in a different way, and in a way that it's going to work for you and it's going to keep you on track, right? So it's always about being I know that I'm lucky. That's one of the skills that I adapted quite young, and I had to learn it in my business. But I'm lucky I come from a family that's very resourceful, a family business background where we understood the challenges, the when sometimes at times can be really hard in a business, and that things can happen that you don't expect, and how other things that can happen that can create change. Being ability to tap into obviously where you're being guided to and new opportunities is the most powerful thing, and to be able to see that there can be other opportunities, and to also recognize that sometimes something is changing so that you change, right? So that's so important. It's so important. And sometimes through these situations, we are asked to do something else or to do something very differently. So it's always about being open. If you look at the old-fashioned approach in self-development and personal growth, it's very ego-based, that it was so goal intention driven. It did not allow for people's connection to spirit and a connection and using their intuition and being more present in the now. Now, when we can be more present, and I mean in a connection that you are open to signs and working from the heart, working from the soul, is very different than being so goal focused that you have your idea what road that you should go, and that's the road, and you're not open to opportunities. When you have an intention but you're open to opportunities, lots of other things can happen, because you can actually find a road that's much better, and you can end up somewhere even more beautiful than you planned and thought that you would be, or somewhere more powerful. Okay, so it's always keeping that connection open, right? And remembering that it's with trust and asking for guidance. And if something some people do have to work on, and we'll talk about that at the end of this. But the second thing is being open. And I talked about resourceful and being and looking, it's so important for us to be able to adapt. And to be adaptable is the ability to be flexible and to be open. Also, in business, it's important that you recognize your resources. Now, your resources can be obvious things like your computer, your clinic. It can even be your skills, your certificates. It can be all the things that you've got. You've maybe already bought software, you've bought things, you've got paper, you've got printer, you've got emails. These are all resources. And what keeps a business going through hard times, and a business that doesn't survive, what keeps a business in strength is a business that is resourceful, and a business that has the ability and the tenacity to see what they have and what they can bring and use to move forward. Now, it's so important in a soul aligned business that you are doing what you're guided to do, but using your resources in the most effective way. And obviously, that has to be recognizing what your audience wants and needs at this time. Some of the most, how could you say, successful businesses created their business through the most hardest times, through the depression, through different financial crises, to tremendous times in society where there was tremendous even atrocities and horrendous things going on. Some people were able to see a need and create a need, create a solution for a need, right? And this is where being resourceful and being able to tap into your personal resources, the resources that you have on a material level, even if you don't realize it, can even to be do with things even on a cyber level, right? If we understand the energy of all that and see it as resources, but also if we can tap into creativity and see creative solutions to things and open our mind. The creator archetype has the ability to create, innovate, and to create solutions and to create new things and new experiences and go with the flow, right? And they can be a channel. Part of being able to allow the creator archetype and open your creator archetype is the ability to see more solution focused and see things as, you know, your resources and look at your resources. Now, when you see all your resources, then you can look at, well, where are you leaking energy? What's the opposite? Where's the expenditure, right? Where are you leaking things that you may not need or maybe not need now or not at the present moment or may not be as needed as what you require. So one of the things that, you know, sometimes it's like anyone in business have to sometimes relook at things and I'll look at things like, so what contractors am I hiring? And look at, are they adding value to the business? Are they using their time effectively? Are they bringing in more money? Or are they leaking energy? Are they leaking time? Are the loan for whatever reason, right? So it's really important to look at the bigger picture, and it's about looking at software, things that you use, and say, right, some things can help us grow our business, but some things actually we're just spending on things that we would like to do. And one of the things is, for example, some archetypes like the lover, in which also looked at as the romantic, or the alchemist magician, they can love spending or get easily sometimes caught up. It depends on what it is, but what I mean is like that shiny objects, and they can be easily seduced by certain things that are false promises or things that may help them be more successful or more qualified or more seen, you know, in a certain light. But the reality is that what can happen if you have these archetypes, you can stack up all these courses of these resources that you mean to do, or you can spend time hiring this coach, that coach, and this person. But guess what? You've not fully committed to any of them. So you're not using the resources. And I'm going to give you some examples. I meet many people who get a website but never optimize. They buy a website, they buy the domain, they buy the space, but they never ever they do not utilize what they've invested. Or they buy a course, they never master their skills, right? They just want the title, they just want to know a little bit, but they don't master anything. So what happens is they, in many ways, are, or even actually, you might be surprised at how many people buy courses and they never use them or never log in. And that's another thing. So leaking energy. So you can leak money, you can leak energy, you can leak time. So obviously that's more money, but it can be leaking energy as in you are opening the door and you're just buying anything and everything, so your energy is more scattered. You can also be leaking energy as in you are giving away too much or you're allowing people to take who do not value. Now, another thing that I see, and this ties in with the resources and expenditure, is that many people complain online like, oh, I'm not getting seen on Facebook, it's, you know, Facebook is not, it's just not fair and I can't be seen and look what they're doing, and they complain a lot about social media, and mostly they're using free platforms, or they expect things to be free, always free, everything free. And what they forget is when someone offers you something for free, someone's paying for that in some sort of level, right? And I suppose the easiest way to explain it, excuse me, is that for every freebie you get, someone's put a lot of time and they may have spent many, many hours studying and learning this. And some things, I find it surprising how, even in the spiritual community, many people expect other services to be really cheap, but they want to charge their worth and increase their value. And sometimes what the other things they're investing in may have That person might have cost them 10, 20 times what they have learnt in their skills or years, but they want to pay them peanuts, basically. So there's a lack of gratitude, and there's not a value there. They're not, and also usually it's because they don't value themselves. And the reality is that part of your resources is gratitude. Gratitude is vital in resources, right? To be able to really look at your business and see all these things that you can take new opportunities out is the ability to be grateful. And if you, one of the things and one of the most important things that you can do is be grateful every single day for all the free advice that you get from other people, because that's other people's expertise. And sometimes you may not have a clue how much dedication someone has, time, energy, and money they have invested to teach you something, right? And then also these free platforms, someone else is paying that, and it may be other customers that are paying for advertising. It's actually allowing that service to give you it for free. Even that company, no matter if you like that company and you don't believe in their ethics, to be able to understand that they are giving you something free. And if you do not value it, well, Ian, guess what? So again, there can be a leakage of energy because there's no love and appreciation for what you're actually getting. And in many ways, it's not respecting things. So it's the same, it goes both ways. If you give a lot and people are not valuing that, sometimes it's about looking. I know that part of my business as a caregiver and nurturer is being generous and giving. But one of the things that I've had to, is like sometimes we see different layers to it, is recognizing where we're enabling people. And when we hear people say, well, no, I wouldn't invest, I wouldn't spend money, you think, well, why should then I, be giving you all these things when you don't even value? And it's not just about the money, it's about respect and value. So where are you leaking energy that you are maybe giving a lot of things to the wrong audience, you're focusing on the wrong audience? Or where are you spending a lot of time and energy and focus on the wrong things? It can be focusing on where you want to be rather than where you are right now. It can be sometimes, I see one of the big things that is people constantly focusing on the future clients, but not being fully there with their present clients. And I'll give you one example was, I remember being on a healing session waiting for her. I waited 10 minutes. And guess what? Found out when I came off, guess where she was? She had popped on to do a quick Facebook Live. And she did that 2 or 3 times with me. She popped on at the time she was supposed to be doing a session with me, right? And it was a clear time, but she was not respecting me, and she was so focused on just the money, 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 and the next client. And she was so future oriented. She wasn't being fully present and not valuing me as a client. So, it works both ways. So, where are you leaking energy? Where are you leaking money? Where are you leaking time? Where are you spending time on things that are not working or are not bringing you back, right? Where are you leaking time on? Actually also can be leaking time on things that you're not very good at, that actually sometimes you are better in the long run. You'll make more money if you hire someone that has the expertise in that area, because you're spending hours on something that you really don't know what you're doing. So it's really important. So back to, you're always in a spiritual business, being connected, asking for guidance, and focusing on your purpose, right? Because that's part of being soul-led, and having that ability to trust and surrender to being that guided. But if you don't have a strong spiritual connection, if you've not got a strong soul connection or power connection, it can be, you may not be picking up the signs and or maybe getting guidance from the wrong energy. The second one, as I said, is look at all the resources. One of the things that happened to me many years ago was I had an extremely challenging situation where I thought I was going to have to give up the business, and I had to start selling things in my business, resource, all sorts of things. And what happened was I had done a contract, and the contractor didn't pay me for 6 months, but I had staff to pay. It was like contractors that I hired in to do the work with me. I'd still had to pay them. And also at the time I was ill, so there was different things happened, and it was, so I had to look and say, right, what have I got? And I had started to sell my resources. But the one thing that I held on to, that I was kind of going, okay, my computer, do I have to sell my computer now? I knew that that was the big thing that could make me money. And what I used to do in those situations, whenever I had a difficulty, I would write a list of all the resources I had. And I remember writing a list and looking in my cupboard and saying, okay, I've got stamps, I've got envelopes, I've got paper, I've got ink. And I done I put a mailing list out. And that was when my mailing lists were more fashionable, right? And that then created me money. I looked at what I had and I was resourceful. And that's just a small way. There's lots of other things that I could tell you I did. And sometimes I did create a lot of stress because I was not always going in the flow. My ego was running the show, right? I also had this thing in my head that every challenge that I came across, I had to break through that wall or climb that mountain. When in my wiser part of me came in and taught me that sometimes, the brick wall is there to say that this is not the way to go, this is not the path for you. And sometimes you can go round the mountain instead of going up the mountain, right? It depends on the path. And that sometimes we just make things more complicated, and that's sometimes we've been guided that this is not the right way, or this is not at the moment, right? So it's so important to understand that. So make sure that you work on your connection. Be grateful. Look at your resources. Be grateful for so many. Never have I mean, when I started my business, there wasn't even 1% of all the free resources that you have today. Most people today can start a business technically, if they really wanted to. With a lot of types of businesses, they can start online with actually nothing. When years ago, you'd have a lot of money to invest and a lot of time, and it took more time. Now, businesses do take time, right? And yes, there's other things, or sometimes people say there's a lot more people selling online and things like that. Yeah. And sometimes we have to do things a little bit differently, but be grateful and look at your resources. Gratitude can turn a lot of things around. And always do not hide your head in the hand. Look your head in the sand. Always look at what are you leaking, and leaking money in the wrong things, right? Or maybe it's because you're not investing. You're not investing in the right things, but are you leaking energy, time, focus? And it's always about never hiding your head in the sand in anything that's going on in the current climate. Things that are going on in the collective, there's a fine line between, of course, we as spiritual businesses know how important it is to raise our vibration. And I've learned more and more, is about not just raising your vibration externally, and what I mean, like just in the physically and in your different energetic layers, soul strength and soul power. And most people's soul power and soul strength is very, very low, right? And that's why we've seen this over the last few years. Why have many in the spiritual community, even in the psychic community, missed so many cues and not seen things that were very obvious? And it can be to do with the soul connection and their soul strength and their fear overriding that. So again, it's so important. Another thing, I mean, I know I'm talking about three, but another thing is keep your stress levels down. But if you keep spiritually connected and you work on that, there's no room for that anxiety and fear when you're connected at a soul level and a spiritual level, because you're in the flow all the time. Okay, now of course with the human we fall out, but the more that you keep connecting and making so that you're a clear channel, things get easier. Okay, so if you're struggling in any of these areas, one of the things that I'm going to be doing on a monthly basis is I'm often, instead of just doing it with my coaching programs and my one-to-one clients, I'm often now each month I'll be offering an archetypal healing session. And what that involves is it's a mixture it's like a signature of my work with some of the tools and techniques I've learned from many top healers, and I accessed them for a variety of reasons because of the extreme health challenges I had, but also constantly attracting a lot of unusual things to my circumstances, which would be like energetic attacks, psychic attacks. I was so highly empathic and sensitive that if certain things were so, I found very disabling in my business, and that led me along a path to learn that it's not just about the mind and how much we're open to things collectively, right? And how one of the things that archetypes, I started studying archetypes 25 years ago, and then it would be about, it might be now about 10 years ago, I started studying more about really getting into deepen about archetypal archetypes in marketing, right? And one of the things that you can learn when you understand the different layers to archetypes is that when someone can tap in to their power archetypes and their soul archetypes, even their business archetypes, it can give them a great source of power and something to use as a tactic to bring something more of something in. But it also helps unlock certain things that you've shut down. You've shut down mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and psychically, right? The things that are supposed to support you, the things that are supposed to help protect your energy. And the great thing about spiritual archetypes is they are in the collective and they're easy to tap into. But the key is making sure you're tapping into the highest dimensions of that, not the shadow elements, and not bringing anything else into your energy field. So that is something I'm going to be doing. So we're going to be clearing your energy. We're going to help you embody more of you. And it's about using archetypes, but making sure we embody more of your power archetypes so that you can move forward in your business and your purpose with better strength. Because no matter what is going on in the collective and no matter what is turning out in society, if you have not got good soul power, soul connection, or soul spiritual connection, you're going to be very disconnected, and it's more easier for you to fall into fear rather than be guided and to really live your purpose and to live with strength, wisdom, and courage, which is something that's so important if you're a spiritual business owner. The next one we have is on the 15th of September, and it's I love doing this one. Well, I love all of them, but this one, I think a lot of people will like this because it's Awaken Your Magical Child, and it's an access and the alchemist. And the thing about working with the magical child, it brings back that awe, it brings a spark, it brings you back to your purpose, it brings you back to your magic. And we use the magical child because often the alchemist is obviously has the shadow and the light attributes, but also because the negative aspects of the alchemist, particularly even a link to the illusionist, has been very prevalent in the collective in society over for a while, but obviously more obvious the last few years. That's very energetically in the collective. So we want to be making sure we're tapping into the purity of the magical child and help you unlock more of your magic, your creativity as well. We'll be bringing a bit of creator in so that you can bring that magic back into your own life, into your business, which is so important as a spiritual business owner, because a spiritual business owner represents that God spark and represents, even if you're not a strong alchemist, you still represent some sort of transformation and change. And that has to kind of come out in an energetic field. It has to be felt in your audience. And if you're not connecting with that, everyone's evolving, right? So we're not just evolving spiritually as healers and coaches and therapists, but so is the world. So if we don't move forward, it's almost like they'll catch up and we'll go beyond us, but they're also going to see through things because people are becoming far more intuitive, sensitive, and empathic, so they can pick up things, right? We're moving into a different way of being where people, the energy, like everything's going to be so much more transparent. So it's about you owning your strength and owning your power, okay? So I've got the details before. It's Thursday, the 15th of September for Awaken Your Magical Child and Inner Alchemist. But every month will be an archetypal healing session to help you and your business with your soul power, your soul connection, and your soul purpose. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching.